Dear folk, today I will talk about addressing the key challenges they're facing in the Khurkh Nature Reserve. As Mongolia is located between Russia and China, Khurkh River Valley is located northeastern Mongolia. Khurkh River Valley is now as the current capital of the Mongolia, holds multiple important designations. It's a Ramsar site in East Asian Australian Flyway Network site and important bird area, and that was declared a natural reserve by the Mongolian government in 2020. It has the highest nesting density of the white-necked crane, about 80 pairs regularly breed in there. Is 15 species of the crane in the world, but in here is 6 crane species are observed in the valley, and the 3 species they are breeding. That's why they are called in the crane capital. And this area is also home to around 251 species, 230 species of the flora, and 54 species of the mammals. And the Ministry of Environmental and Tourism signed an agreement with International Crane Foundation, officially transferring natural reserve management to Wildlife Science and Conservation Center of Mongolia. This NGO is unique as it has been given to responsibility manage to newly established natural reserve a period of them during 10 years. The Khurkh Nature Reserve faces the multiple interconnected challenges that treating is ecological integrity and the survival of the key species like white-necked crane and other endangered species. One of major challenges is degradation of the habitat caused by the climate change and our grazing, and wetlands and critical for the wildlife and the cranes. The breeding they are shrinking due to the recent temperatures and increased aridity throughout the permafrost. This is not only reduced available breeding ground, but also leads to declining in the overall biodiversity. Our grazing by the over 640,000 livestock managed by local herder families intensify these issues. This result is soil erosion and future depletion of the dense fragile wetlands and ecosystem, which is very essential for the survival of the wildlife in this area. Another challenge is a domestic dog. They are used by the local herders to guard of the livestock have to become a major threat to the wildlife, especially during the breeding season. These dogs often roam freely and attack the crane nests and preying on young chicks. This human and the wildlife conflict directly endanger species like white-necked cranes and other species. The absence of the proper regulation and the enforcement around the dog and control during the critical breeding period further worsens the issue, making it so difficult to protect the vulnerable nesting sites. Also, in many livestock coming to in the near the lake and trying to drink in the water. They also destroy the many nests. Another challenge is unregulated waste management and increase in the tourism pressure. The increase of the number of the visitors in the Khurkh Nature Reserve, especially in the after COVID-19, has increased the pressure on the ecosystem especially in the wildlife. The nature reserve doesn't have zoning for the tourism activities, and there is no tourist management system to reduce the negative impact on the important human habitat. There every year is many bird watchers and the photographer and the local people and any other tourists. They are just visiting in protected area and then camping anywhere, especially in the near the sensitive areas. Without the designated trails and the visitor zones, tourists advantageously disturb the wildlife and during the vulnerable times such as the breeding season. And additionally, the lack of the information about the visitor behavior makes it difficult to effectively monitoring and addressing this impact. These three challenge is now we are facing as a high priority of our challenge. Also, we are focusing on the reducing these three main challenges. The goal of the proposal, the ensuring and the long-term sustainability of the KKNR, and the main objective is reduce the human wildlife conflict and address the habitat degradation and promote the sustainable livelihood through the community engagement at the development and tourism. The proposed action aim to find a balance between the need of the local herders and the ecological requirement of the endangered species, with the especially focus on the white-nerved crane. The reduce the impact of the domestic dog on the endangered species, especially during the breeding season. A community-based dog management program is proposed. This program including educating the herders and the risk posed are free roaming dogs, implementing mandatory regulations to keep the dog leashed or the confined during the breeding period, and enforcing the restriction and to keep dogs away, especially in our core areas. This step will be carrying out the help to local governors and the rangers. The expected outcome is decreasing in the protection of the crane nest and leading to improving breeding success and the survival rates. To addressing of the issue of the overgrazing and the impact of the wetland, promoting livelihood and diversification is the key. The proposed solution is to introduce alternative sustainable income generating activities for local community to reduce their depends on the livestock. And the action steps, they are expanding in the community-based conservation program, and the crane enterprise program is encouraging the local people to produce eco-friendly handmade handcrafts and introduce the new livelihood options such as the beekeeping, ecotourism, and the gear camping, and the chicken farming and the cheese production for the herders family. They provide the access to financial service like micro loans and insurance to help the herders transition to this alternative income the sources. The expected outcome is this initiative will decrease their reliance on the livestock for the income, reduce the overgrazing, and enhance the local community support and conservation efforts. To address the challenges unregulated tourism activities that disturb the critical wildlife habitat, developing a zoning system for the conservation and the sustainable tourism is crucial, and the solution is implement as a zoning scheme to designate specific areas for conservation sustainable use and the controlled tourism based on ecological sensitivity. And the action plan is GIS and along with the framework like the tourism opportunity spectrum and the limit acceptable change to map the access zones and involve the local communities and the stakeholders and in the creating and the zoning plan, ensuring that traditional land use practices are integrated into conservation strategy and set the visitor costs and the limit access to high priority conservation zones, especially during the breeding season. The expected outcome is this will reduce the human impact on the sensitive habitats, enhance the biodiversity, and lead to more structured tourism developments. This map is the proposed internal zones of the nature reserve. Their plan will be implemented in the phases in the first 12 months. The pilot program for the dog management and ecotourism will begin alongside the zoning and the stakeholder engagement for the tourism planning over the next phases. Livelihood program like grain enterprises and beekeeping will expand. The zoning plan will be finalizing, and nature reserve will be promoted as the tourism destination, and the final 24 to 36 months sustainable livelihood efforts will be scale up dog management, and zoning will be reviewed, and the partnership with the international conservation organization will be strengthened. Success will be measured by increasing white-necked crane breeding success and the survival rates, and the healthy wetlands, and the greater community involvement, and the high visitor satisfaction with the reduced environmental impacts. The literature review they provide a theoretical foundation for the addressing and the challenge the nature reserve. This section introduced the key works and the strategies that inform the proposal for balancing the conservation and the community engagement and sustainable tourism. And the visitor use management framework is a key tool for the balancing visitor impact and conservation conservation in protected areas. At the nature reserve, unregulated tourism has increased the disturbances in the critical habitat, especially after COVID-19. And by applying the visitor use management framework, and the nature reserve can access the carrying capacity of the different zones and set the visitors costs and designated trails, and reducing disturbance to sensitive species like white-necked crane during the breeding season. And this framework has helped the balance the tourism and the conservation by the monitoring the visitor behavior and the impact of enabling the adaptive management based on the real-time data. Carrying capacity analysis and the limit acceptable change are the key primary goals of managing tourism in sensitive environmental like nature reserve. Carrying capacity analysis purpose in determining maximum number of the visitors the ecosystem can be supported without environmental harm. This is particularly important the nature reserve where the wetland and breeding ground of species and endangered species are the highly vulnerable. Research such as the manning and highlights the need to define the death limits that prevent long-term damage, especially in the areas with endangered species. Meanwhile, in the limit acceptable change model looks beyond the visitor numbers. It focuses in the environmental change that are acceptable with measurable indicators like vegetation health and the wildlife behavior. For a nature reserve, this means setting clear targets to ensure that human activity remain sustainable. This model is flexible, noted by the Boria et al. And Ling et al. Also is particularly valuable in the dynamic ecosystem like wetland, which are susceptible to climate change. These both tools are essential for protecting natural reserve unique ecological balance and while allowing for the controlling and sustainable visitor use. The community-based conservation is a visual approach that involves the local communities in the management and the decision making of the protected areas and aiming to align conservation efforts with the local needs and value. And in the natural reserve and the local herders communities are very essential to ecologically steward, but also to contribute to challenge like overgrazing and the domestic dog impacts. Without their engagement in the conservation strategies are less likely to succeed. And adopting the community-based conservation is a nature reserve can ensure the herders are the part of the sustainable tourism and conservation effort, benefiting from the programs such as the ecotourism and the handcraft production. Researchers, including Andre shows the shows that when the conservation efforts provide tangible economic benefit like a grant prize program which offer the alternative income local women and the community supports for conservation increases. This approach they help to balance the both ecological protection and community livelihood. As a conclusion, I'm just thinking about my final thoughts, and the natural reserve has immense potential to become a model of the sustainable conservation and the development in Mongolia. By tackling in the challenges it currently faces, this action plan will be create a future where wildlife thrives, local communities prosper, and the tourism becomes as a positive force both the environmental and the economy. Through the successful implementation of this strategy, we can ensure that nature reserve remain the sanctuary for endangered species like white-necked cranes, and the services as a shining example of sustainable tourism and community-driven conservation for the Mongolia. Many thanks for your attention. If you have any feedback or suggestion, please write a comment. Thank you.